Happy Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into another week of Morning Jocks right here with Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell. Appreciate you making us a part of your morning each and every weekday here on Jocks. And we have a little bit of a short week this week. I know a lot of you probably going out of town have a short week as well with the 4th of July holiday coming up this week. But nonetheless, we will be here for the next few days, keeping you up to date on everything going on around the world of college football because it really started last week, and now we are continuing on with a big time in the world of recruiting with guys committing left and right. Just so many. If you follow Hayes Fawcett or anybody in that world of graphics on social media, that's probably all you saw over the weekend, and that's a lot of what you're going to see for the next few days. So we've got a lot in the pipeline potentially for Auburn, a lot in the pipeline potentially for Alabama as well, and Alabama could be in the middle of one of the very best stretches that we've seen in college football recruiting in quite some time. So we'll certainly fill you in on everything going on there as well. But we also have some other things from the weekend to get to, a lot of things going on in the world of Major League Baseball. And yesterday was a very big day for a bunch of NBA players who you're going to be very familiar with from their times at Alabama and Auburn. So we'll tell you a lot about some former basketball players and stars here in the state of Alabama getting major paydays. But before we get into everything all good on your end, Damien? Good weekend? Any
Absolutely.
complaints?
Yeah, no complaints. Celebrated some birthdays this weekend.
There you go.
I got a chance to see some old friends, old teammates. Uh, and it's different now because we're older. Everybody's getting older. Everybody's kind of like in their careers having a good time. And a couple guys coach in the state of Georgia. And I was just like asking them because they got a chance to. They have some real, just immensely talented players on their rosters. And I just kind of wanted like the inside scoop of, all right, so when y'all do these recruiting visits and stuff, like, how does it go down?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they peel back the curtain. Like, it is, it's crazy. Like when I say 16, 17, 18-year-olds are making business decisions, it's in their head. It's unique to think that just a decade ago, we were kind of, we were trying to figure life out. We're in college having a good time with a couple dollars in our pockets. These kids now are starting conversations with like these general managers. Like the general manager role at a university is one of the most like powerful positions you can be in. If you have a good one, oh yeah, your program as a whole is y'all about that business. But it's so interesting just to see and hear like Kirby's flying a jet to practice. Like he's landing it and he's talking. He's looking at guys going through individual drills and stuff, and it's like, yeah, we got you. Like, here's my card, here's my contact information. We will hear from you shortly.
Yeah. No, and you were spot on about the importance of the general manager role in college athletics. So we've seen, we've seen some, fairly big names that have gotten drawn into that arena and have kind of gotten involved in a lot of things, and I just think of, I remember when we got the news that, Jim Nagy, for example, who had been running the Senior Bowl for so long, and, it's like, oh, he's going to go run the ship there at Oklahoma. It's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of some big business stuff here.
Yes,
and it's
sir.
almost, it's not that far away from, I think, what you see in the NFL with some of those guys and how well-known a lot of those general managers are. But you mentioned having a good general manager and how important that is in today's age of college athletics. And I think it's safe to say that Alabama has a pretty good one in Courtney Morgan. And from the second that, Kalen DeBoer landed in Tuscaloosa for the first time after Nick Saban retired, and you saw him walk off the plane, and it was, man, who's this guy that's with Kalen DeBoer? And you realize pretty quickly how important that Courtney Morgan was. And, even just hearing the stories of, their first plan of action essentially once they got hired was, all right, how do we get this Ryan Williams kid to commit back to Alabama and to stay put here? And they've done a great job so far, and, they might be doing their best job yet here over the last few days and heading into the next couple of days as well. But over the weekend, Alabama picking up some more commitments. So they got the big one yesterday that we had been expecting for some time, and that was five-star linebacker Xavier Griffin. So he chose Alabama over Texas, Ohio State, and Florida State. He was the kid that had committed to USC and then decommitted a few months back, and so he had been trending towards Alabama for quite some time now. But he's one of the very, very best prospects in this upcoming class. He plays for Coach Niblett in Georgia. I think a lot of people here are very familiar with Coach Niblett. But yeah, so that's where he comes from, and he actually is from what I understand, he's from the state of Alabama, but then he moved to Georgia, and so this was kind of like a coming home. They did a cool little video on Yay Alabama. If you saw that on social media, kind of welcoming him back to the state of Alabama. So that was some massive news that you got yesterday as he announced his commitment there. You also had over the weekend, you had three-star linebacker Zay Hall from Hillcrest High School right there in Tuscaloosa. So he chose to stay at Alabama over Virginia Tech. So very cool. He gets to stay home and go right down the road to the University of Alabama next year. So two more pickups for Alabama over the weekend. You also have a couple of more guys that are on the table and expected to announce their decisions this week. So today you're going to have a three-star receiver in Owen Cabell. He's from Nashville. He is going to announce his decision today over Illinois and Vanderbilt. So again, just kind of funny that you're in a world where Alabama and Vanderbilt are in the mix for the same guy. So that's a decision that could come today. Then on Wednesday, another big one is five-star receiver Sedarian Morgan. He will be announcing his decision there, and it's expected that he will pick Alabama over Auburn, Florida, and some other schools. And then you have on July 4th, Noah Wilson, who's a four-star defensive lineman. He's expected to commit to Alabama this week as well. And then you also have Tank Jones, who's another five-star defensive player who hasn't announced a date yet, but he is expected to go to Alabama as well. So you add in what you got last week with E.J. Crowell, with Max Sutter, some of these other 4- and 5-star guys, and it is shaping up to, again, be a very special summer for Alabama recruiting. That doesn't mean that all of these guys are going to be there in December, Damian, when they have to sign on the dotted line, but it certainly bodes well for you right now. Alabama has the number 7 recruiting class in the country, according to On3, number 8, according to 247, and very quickly has jumped up from, they were in the 50s not that long ago, just like we were talking about with Auburn last week. It wasn't that long ago that Alabama only had 5 commitments, and now you got 14, and all of a sudden you have the most 3-stars of any school in the class.
Yeah, and it goes to show that, say what you want, man. And we've been trying to explain it the whole time. It's the A is still going to it's going to sell itself. It still means something. It's still the Bama standard, no matter what. Understand with change and the season that you had last year, when you look at the program as a whole, it's still on solid foundation. It wasn't like Nick Saban left the cupboard bare when he retired. Like the foundation of Alabama is still excellence, and I do think the standard is that, and you're seeing that on the other side, even with a team that left a lot on the table last year in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer. All he's done is prepare for the future. It's like, okay, I saw what the first year was. Now we're on track. Like, this is what it's going to look like, and getting talent the way that he has in such a short amount of time goes to show you that it's always going to sell itself.
It certainly will. And yeah, the brand certainly carries a lot of weight. And, who's to say that, to be fair, right? You have a couple of these losing seasons and you're probably not going to be recruiting quite as well. But people, clearly willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and they believe in what they're seeing and what this program is. And we can get into some of this in a little bit too. But, you start to hear some of the things, from the weekend. You had the Manning Passing Academy, a lot of things coming out there from, Ty Simpson, probably the most we've heard from Ty Simpson really this offseason. And it's, again, it's, you don't expect him to say anything else, but you're hearing a lot of really, really good things about the program and a lot of optimism about not only this year, but the immediate future under Kalen DeBoer and this staff. So currently they are doing an excellent job, and we will continue to see if this week is another big week for Alabama. But another thing, quickly, a note, not exactly sure when he would be committing either, but you did find out and kind of a surprise because you had Jet Tamala, who's the quarterback out of Nebraska that committed to the Crimson Tide recently. But Alabama also offered another four-star quarterback in the upcoming class. His name's Taden Kawa. And so that's another guy that's in the mix, and they're expecting, or people are saying, I guess he's leaning towards Alabama now. So maybe you have two quarterbacks in that class, or it's just kind of a safety net in case one of those guys leaves. But interesting there. So Alabama going after another 2026 quarterback recruit as well there. So big things for Alabama over the weekend, and we will see how that continues on into the week. So not a whole lot to report on the Auburn side of things. So I know there are some guys. I know Jaquez Wilkes. He's a four-star edge rusher. I believe he's expected to announce his decision early this week. So that's a name that has been trending towards Auburn a little bit there. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for any big news there on the Auburn front. But the good news is if you are off work today or you just want something to put on in the background, it is Auburn Tigers Takeover Day on the SEC Network, if that is your kind of thing. So let's see. Right now, what are we working with? Auburn versus Georgia softball, it looks like. Then you're going to have Auburn at Alabama in basketball. The first meeting, that game's going to be coming up this morning as well. You're going to get a little Auburn LSU baseball later in the day. Auburn versus Houston basketball. And then to cap it all off, of course, you're going to get Auburn's Elite Eight win over Michigan State, and then Auburn versus Texas A&M in football. Those are going to be your big ones tonight on the SEC Network. So Alabama, theirs was Saturday, I believe, where they had their takeover. Now Auburn doing theirs. And this is, I will say, the reason I kind of bring this up is I know we say media days are like the official kickoff of football season, and they are. But this is what gets you to media days, right? This is when they say, "All right, let's just clear it off. Let's go run the hits from the last year. Every school gets their day on the SEC Network, and then bam, at the end of it, we're in Atlanta for SEC Media Days." So this is good. We're moving along. We're still in the A's, so we're early on here. But again, it's just these little things that make it feel like it's that much closer to
And just
football
think
season.
about when Vanderbilt has their takeover.
Yeah, that'll be great for them.
What football game do you think they're gonna put on?
That Virginia Tech game was pretty good early
Yeah, it was.
in the season.
I think there was one like later on too.
Yeah, no, I think they won a couple more games after that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So
Might as well to me, you might as well just play that one game when they knocked off the number one team.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't blame you one bit if you just said, let's just play that on a loop for 24 hours. Yeah, I think a lot of people would probably tune in to rewatch that one. I wouldn't, but a lot of Deacon wouldn't. But I think there's a lot of people out there that would be all about that. So that's what's going on today. You got your Auburn takeover on the SEC Network, and Alabama with a big recruiting weekend. So we'll continue to talk about recruiting as we move along here throughout the show. But you also had the Atlanta Braves with a big series going this weekend with an opportunity to pick up some ground in the National League East. And how about some former Alabama and Auburn basketball stars getting paid over the weekend? We'll tell you who that was next on Morning Jox. 618, welcome back in. Morning Jocks. Conrad and Damian here with you on your Monday morning. Expecting some more rain a little bit later in the day today. So if you thought, oh man, hopefully the rain's over, it's not. And I thought it was over the end of last week, but we went and played some golf on Friday. Damian made it halfway through, and the bottom fell out and a bunch of lightning. So probably was a good idea for us to leave, and then went to the lake on Saturday. Got rained on again, and then went and celebrated my mother-in-law's birthday yesterday, and got rained on again. So
Yeah, welcome to summers of Alabama.
yeah, I remember when a few weeks ago was, man, we're not going to get any more rain for like 2 months, and it has somehow rained, I think, every single day since then. But that's just how it is, as you said. That's weather here in Birmingham, Alabama. So everyone stay safe out there today. But appreciate you tuning in this morning, and we were talking about how we're just a couple weeks away from SEC Media Days, and that's when it feels like the real countdown to college football season really gets going. But that also means we're a couple weeks away from the All-Star game for Major League Baseball, and that is also going to be in Atlanta at the same time as SEC Media Days. And not as many Braves will be in participation as they were a couple years ago. If you remember, Damian, when it felt like they had like 4 or 5 guys that were starting on the All-Star team, and so you're going to get some local love there. We know Acuna is going to be in the home run derby, and that's going to be great. But it was not an ideal weekend, I guess, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, as you welcome the Philadelphia Phillies into town for a 3-game series. Big opportunity after splitting a 4-game set against the Mets to keep picking up, gaining some ground there in the NL East. But as the Braves have done so many times this year, Damian, they let everyone down yet again as they drop 2 of 3 from the Phillies. So they get shut out 13-0 on Friday. They win 6-1 on Saturday, but yesterday they fall just short 2-1 there, as Spencer Strider had an excellent outing. He went 7 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs yesterday, but Suarez just a little bit too good. So he goes 7 innings, only gives up 1 earned run for Philadelphia yesterday. You had Sean Murphy with a solo shot. He had a big grand slam earlier in the weekend, but that was all that the Braves could get going yesterday. So they dropped 2 of 3. They've now lost 4 of 5. And unfortunately sit 10.5 games back of the Phillies in the NL East, 9 games back of the Mets there in second place. And if you look at the wild card, they are currently 8 games back of the wild card. So not where you want to be. Every day that goes by, you are getting closer and closer to the end of the season, and now you are just over the halfway mark. You're at 63 games played, 83 games played. So at this point, you just... I don't know. Every time that they give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of reason to believe again, they seem to let everyone down.
And maybe they are just ready for the All-Star break. They just need a reset. They need a reset, and
Yeah,
I think
they need a restart of the season.
I think that after the All-Star break, they can get on because the team is talented. It's just they're just inconsistent right now, and it has to be frustrating because it's not like you're in a rebuilding stage. It's not like you're going everything from the ground up. It's just you don't play consistent baseball game after game.
Yep, situational hitting has been pretty abysmal for the Braves, and it's just unfortunate because even, the things that are going well, right, like Chris Sale, he started to look like the Cy Young winner that he was last year. He makes a diving play out there, just making a play for his teammates, breaks his ribs, so now he's missing time. Strider missed a lot of time, Acuna's missed a bunch, but he's now on fire, and so, you see the potential that's there, and if the Braves found a way to make the postseason, you got Chris Sale, Spencer Strider, and Schwellenbach, and you can throw those 3 guys in a series. You're going to be able to go up against just about anybody from a pitching standpoint. It's just offensively, it's been kind of a nightmare, and the bullpen hasn't been great either. So we'll see if they can get back on track. Braves are off today. Then they bring or welcome home the Angels as they will host Anaheim there for a few games starting tomorrow. As they try to get things back on track. But we did also tell you yesterday was a big day for some former Alabama and Auburn basketball stars in the NBA. And we'll start off with the big money that you got yesterday, and that would be one of the best players, at least in recent Auburn basketball history, Mr. Jabari Smith, who was the number 2 overall pick just a few years ago. An incredible talent coming out of Auburn. Him and Walker Kessler that year. that pair of guys, maybe the best duo that we've seen at Auburn in quite some time. But Jabari Smith, he gets a rookie 5-year, $122 million extension from the Houston Rockets yesterday. So that's roughly $24.4 million a year. He averaged just over 12 points and 7 rebounds a game for Houston last year. So they make a big commitment to him for the future as he now gets to play with Kevin Durant, Damian. So that's exciting.
It is.
Right?
And for the Houston Rockets, you're keeping one of your core pieces as, a young developmental guy that you think, like, we've seen flashes. We've seen the athleticism. We see, you can't really just make guys like that in the lab. Like, he's kind of one of those, all right, once he starts to get the feel of this NBA game, he's getting paid, handsomely, but also his game is going to elevate too. Having somebody like Kevin Durant on the roster, having Fred VanVleet being out there, 2 champions, and I think that for Houston and what they have in such a young core, that they're at least taking care of. They're like, hey, we believe in you. You're going to be here for a while. You should expect for his game to start to bubble up and flourish as he continues throughout this contract. And shout out to the Rockets for making some real boss moves because again, like, they made the playoffs last year with a number 2 seed and ran across the Golden State Warriors, which, I mean, again,
they took them 7 games though.
Exactly. So it's okay. They're a few pieces away, but the fact that they have such a young amount of a good amount of young talent that they're cultivating in and they're starting to believe in, you got to think that the future looks extremely bright for those guys down in Houston.
It certainly does. So I'm very interested to just see how the whole KD experiment works out because, I mean, we've seen this move a lot, right? You have a young team. You feel like you need, that elite veteran presence to kind of get you over the hump. And, so we're going to see if Houston will be a real title contender in the coming years with KD, Jabari Smith, and the rest of those guys there in Houston. But you did also have some big news yesterday. So not a new contract for this guy necessarily, but a new home. And that is one Colin Sexton, the former University of Alabama star who was a top 10 pick a handful of seasons ago out of Tuscaloosa. So he is now going to be a Charlotte Hornet as the Jazz traded him and a second-round pick in the 2031 NBA draft to the Charlotte Hornets for Yusuf Nurkic, who unfortunately is just a shell of his former self. When he was healthy and in Portland, some of those teams with him and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum were nasty, but unfortunately injuries have kind of derailed his career for a number of years. But, he's still, he can go out there, give you some solid minutes, give you about 10 and 10 a game, that kind of thing. And so Utah, they try to add a little bit of size because they added Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida and Ace Bailey from Rutgers in the draft. So no need for Colin Sexton, who still, and this is the crazy thing about the NBA, right? If you think about how long ago Colin Sexton was in college and he just got traded, he's 26 years old. And I mean, he's been in the NBA for almost 8 years and he's 26. I mean, it's just, it's just weird when that's the way that it works, with these one and done guys. But it's like, man, he's really only that old. But he averaged 18 points, 4 assists a game last year for Utah. So he now goes to Charlotte where he gets to play with Brandon Miller.
Yeah, it's a little different in Charlotte, North Carolina, as opposed to...
Yeah, dude, they got shooters out there.
They do. They do.
Yeah, they're an interesting team with LaMelo and...
They're young and wild.
Brandon Miller and Colin Sexton. Yeah, they got some... I was about to say, they're a team that they might score a lot of points, but I have to imagine they're going to give up even more points.
Exactly.
Not a lot of defense going around there, but... Hey, they'll like to put up some points, and they'll continue to be just a bad franchise. So it is what it is.
It's like, expectations in Charlotte. They'll be entertaining. But they probably brought in Colin Sexton because, again, he's a big dog for a reason. Like, he's probably walking into a situation where even him being at 26 has to be like the vet of the team. Just like, all right, y'all, can we at least attempt to stop a team tonight? Can we at least try? Because you got to think, we saw him essentially beat a team by himself when the guys were fouled out, and he was like, "It's three of us." It was
5-on-3 versus Minnesota. Yeah,
right. And Colin Sexton was like, "I don't care how many players we got out here. Let's go out here and ball."
Mm-hmm.
So he probably gives them a little bit of an identity change, but also he's with some youngins. Like he is. The expectation level is just, can you make us competitive? Can you give us a
Yes.
little bit of that edge? And they need to be reeled in just a tad bit. Just a tad bit.
Just a little bit, but yeah, so that's cool. Colin Sexton and Brandon Miller are now teammates there with the Charlotte Hornets. And then last but not least, you have the Boston Celtics, who they pick up their option on JD Davidson, another first round pick out of Alabama here a couple of years ago. But it's just a $2.2 million option, and he has been spent a lot of time in the G League. He was actually the MVP of the G League this year, averaged over 25 points a game. So you have to imagine in a season for Boston where Jason Tatum with his injury, it's, I don't want to say it's a wash of a season, but I mean, it essentially is a wash of a season because your superstar player is going to miss probably the whole year. So maybe JD Davison gets a little bit of playing time this year. Boston lets him play, see what they got with him. So that's your former Alabama and Auburn basketball stars. What's going on with them in the NBA? Some big news coming out for them yesterday. But we have some of you chiming in. We'll get back to the recruiting news if you're just now joining us. Big recruiting weekend for Alabama, so we'll give you all the details on that. And an ugly situation going on currently with a Big Ten program. We were talking about them potentially becoming a powerhouse in this new world of NIL, and now they look like they might need a quarterback for this upcoming season. So we'll tell you all about that next on Jox. 6:35 here on Morning Jocks. Appreciate you tuning in to us this Monday morning. Conrad and Damian here with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublik in the morning. So big weekend for Alabama football on the recruiting trail. We will tell you all about that coming up if you're just now tuning in. But the gist of it is you got another 5-star in linebacker Xavier Griffin. He commits to Alabama yesterday. And then you also had Zay Hall, a 3-star linebacker there in Tuscaloosa, who decides to stay home with the Crimson Tide, and some other big names expected to announce their commitments this week. And as it stands right now, they are expecting to join the Crimson Tide. So a lot of good things going on there on the recruiting front for Alabama. But first, let's get to what's going on with a particular quarterback who had some pretty high expectations for him this year. And that would be Jake Retzlaff, who is the BYU Cougars quarterback. So last year, Retzlaff had a nice season, threw for almost 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns there for BYU. He added another 6 touchdowns rushing for the Cougars last year. And so going into this year, it's expected he was going to continue to be the starter for a BYU team that was going to hope to make some noise there in the Big 12. But as of yesterday, it has been announced that he is planning to transfer out of BYU. And the reason for this is, first off, he is currently dealing with a civil lawsuit going back to a rape charge from 2023. And so he is currently working through that lawsuit. But being the fact that it is BYU, regardless of whether, I guess, those charges are dropped or ultimately are upheld, this acknowledges that he had premarital sex, which at BYU is against the student code of conduct and their honor code. So they had told him that regardless of what happened with the lawsuit, he was going to face a 7-game suspension for having premarital sex, which means that he has decided he is just going to enter the transfer portal and go elsewhere instead of miss over half of the upcoming season. So according to sources, the BYU staff has been ramping up the preparation of their backup quarterbacks in the recent days, with the expectation that Retzlaff could leave the program. That became official yesterday, that is the expectation. The team is currently away from, team activities until July 7th. So the expectation is that when they come back together after the July 4th holiday, that Retzlaff will be gone and they will be moving forward at the quarterback position. According to the representation for Mr. Retzlaff, they all claim essentially that the lawsuit is bogus and that they continue to have a friendly relationship after the encounter happened, and that this all happened because Jake Retzlaff had proven himself to become an NFL prospect, and they are claiming that the woman was looking to seek compensation off of that. And then her, recollection of the events is obviously much different, and is, if any of that stuff is true, it is not looking very good for Mr. Retzlaff. So that is a situation that we will continue to monitor there at BYU, but looks like they will be playing with a different face at quarterback this fall, as Jake Retzlaff is planning to transfer out of the program as he is in the middle of a civil lawsuit for a rape charge, and will be suspended anyways for premarital sex if he had stayed at BYU.
Yeah, just extremely unfortunate situation. And for a guy had a promising career there at BYU, it kind of just goes to show that it's different. Like it's different over there. It really is. Now if it comes out that this was all consensual, you're kind of for Jake, he's screwed either way. Like he's screwed either way, because now he has to hit the transfer portal if he wants to play, and it's an honor code violation. But I do think that it kind of just it shows that the rules were broken no matter what. But I hate the fact that it had to come out in a situation like this. Like
Yeah.
It doesn't look good either way. And again, if it was consensual, then I think that the woman should face some penalties as well, because of the fact that she's trying to set him up, and kind of now she's thrown his future in peril. Now now if it is true, yeah, it's bad. Like Jake has to suffer the consequences, but it's just you hate for him to have to deal with this on top of, like, football aside. It's just now he's like a human, like the human aspect of it, of man, like he has to have this guilt or have this thing, but also I mean he's denied all the allegations, and his defense team is they've been locked and loaded. They've shown messages. They're saying, hey, like this is a come up. Like she's trying to get a come up, and it's predatory. Like it's one of those like, wow, like you really are taking this guy's whole life and completely changing it. Like he went to BYU for a reason. Like he wants to be a BYU Cougar, but now he has to redirect and change exactly where he's going to go moving forward, and that can affect him in the future.
Yeah, so it's worth noting that no criminal charges have been filed against Retzlaff. It is a civil lawsuit that has been that he's going through right now. So it's not criminal charges as of right now. And BYU's statement on the matter is, quote, the university takes any allegation very seriously, following all processes and guidelines mandated by Title IX. Due to federal and university privacy laws and practices for students, the university will not be able to provide additional comment. And so that was their statement once the charges had initially been raised against Retzlaff. So he will now be on his way out to another program, it appears. And obviously, I think it's safe to say that while they work through this lawsuit, probably not going to find themselves a landing spot because, again, if if the allegations turn out to be true, some of the stuff in there is pretty damning, and he doesn't deserve to get an opportunity to play more college football. But we'll wait and see how all of that legal proceedings end up there. But BYU looks like they will have a new starting quarterback in the 2025 season, and this is not the first time that they've had a situation like this. So if you remember, they had back in 2011, basketball player Brandon Davies was dismissed from the team late in the season after it was found out that he had premarital sex. And then in 1999, you had running back Reno May was also suspended from the school and forced to leave the football program for a similar incident. So that's what's going on there at BYU. A bit of a different story, but a big story in college football right now, nonetheless. But another big story in college football is recruiting, and that has been going very well for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So we will tell you everything you missed from the weekend for a big recruiting weekend for Alabama, and want to get your thoughts as well. How impressed are you with what Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, and company have done in Tuscaloosa here over the past couple of weeks? We'll get your reaction as well. 205-834-9450 on the Monday morning edition of Morning Jocks. 6:47 here on your Monday morning. Appreciate you tuning into Morning Jocks here. Conrad Van Order and Damian Mitchell with you. Recapping everything you may have missed over the weekend. And a lot of that includes some big recruiting news for Alabama football, as we knew going into last week that there were a lot of a lot of pieces on the board, Damian, and some big name targets that have been trending towards Alabama. And a lot of these, when people with their crystal ball predictions and there's a 60% lean for this guy to go to this program, and you just never kind of know. And but right now it feels like Alabama can't miss right now, right? In terms of if if Alabama's on your list, and they've even made mention of your name, it just kind of feels like they are all trending towards Alabama right now. So they've done a fantastic job down there, Kalen DeBoer, Courtney Morgan, and the rest of that staff on putting together one heck of a recruiting class, because it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about an Alabama team that was, in the 30s recruiting wise. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about an Alabama class that was in the 50s at one point, and only had 5 commits to their name. And now you're looking at 14 commitments for this Alabama recruiting class. So, told you earlier in the show, right now, according to 247 Sports, Alabama, they now have the 8th best recruiting class in the 2026 cycle. So right now you have USC 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, A&M 4, Ohio State 5, Miami 6, Clemson 7, and Alabama at number 8. And most of those schools have a significant number, or significantly more commitments, total commitments, than Alabama. Like USC, they have 30 commitments overall. So that's why they're at number 1 right now. But Alabama, they have 3 5-stars in the class now, because if you missed it yesterday, they picked up a commitment from Xavier Griffin, the 5-star linebacker out of Gainesville, Georgia. So he commits to the Crimson Tide. You also have Jordan Edmonds. He's a 5-star cornerback. Some places have him listed as the number 1 cornerback in the upcoming class. And you also have Xavier Crowell, the running back, who's a 5-star kid as well. So that's 3 5-stars for Alabama, now up to 14 total commitments. You also got Zay Hall, a linebacker out of Hillcrest High School there in Tuscaloosa, over the weekend to commit as well. You go back to last week, you had Max Sutter, a 4-star tight end. He commits as well. You've gotten Jet Tamala recently. JJ Finch, a 3-star defensive lineman's committed. So a lot of things going very, very well for Alabama. And as they head into this week, you have a lot left to look forward to as well, because you have Cabell. He's a 3-star receiver out of Nashville. He's going to announce his decision today. Tomorrow, you're going to have Brian Williams, not Ryan Williams, Brian Williams, who's another receiver. He's expected to make his decision tomorrow. Coming up on Wednesday, you have Cedarian Morgan. He's a 5-star wide receiver. So all 3 of those guys expected to commit to Alabama in the next 3 days. So this ball could just continue rolling. And no doubt, Damian, that it's really, really impressive what they've been doing recently.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, man, it goes to show that it's always going to sell itself. The foundation is still there, and I think that for Alabama fans, you got to feel pretty good, because I think that one of the biggest question marks was, okay, well, the season didn't go the way that it did, but the future is still in great shape, in great hands. And I think that for any program, again, like it wasn't that long ago, Alabama was sitting late 20s, or pretty much in the 30s, 40s range, and now they're in the top 10. Like, you're going to get a top 10 recruiting class. But also, you kind of have that air of caution, because, again, these guys don't have to make a decision until December. Like, when they
got a lot of time to hang on to these guys.
Right, but it does put you in it does make you feel good here in the summertime of like, okay, well, it looks great. It looks great. And then the season goes, and see how it shapes out, and to see how many of those guys will officially sign on the dotted line come December.
Yeah, and so you definitely, you don't want to hold your breath on a lot of these kids, because, right, one phone call can completely change their minds, and a lot of them will probably change their mind multiple times between now and they actually have to make a commitment. But you also, it's certainly not a bad thing, right, that you're getting these commitments now. So, we can all sit here and say, oh, well, let's pump the brakes, and that is absolutely fair. And you shouldn't get too overly excited about this stuff, but you're clearly doing something right to get them in the first place. So things are going pretty well on the recruiting front there. And so a lot of you have been weighing in with your thoughts this morning at 205-834-9450. They're on the courtesy text line. Let's see. Richard from Hoover, he chimes in. He says 33rd to 8th in recruiting in the last 5 days. Is that good? Ha. See, and he says, by the way, as much as I wish it did, none of this means anything until December, unfortunately. And so what we're saying, it doesn't, but it's, again, as you also pointed out, you jumped up from 33rd to 8th in recruiting in less than a week. So things are clearly pointing right in that direction. Bama Hater chimes in. He says, wasn't Conrad and all the other Alabama fans giddy about the 5 stars in their recruiting class a couple years ago, and then they ran into the witness protection program after losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma this past year? I mean, if you're going to correlate that Alabama having a good recruiting class means they're going to lose to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma every year, there's 17 years of evidence that go against that before last year, but to each their own. Joseph chimes in about the BYU quarterback situation. He says, add to that situation that Ryder Lyons, their new 5-star quarterback, may try to enroll early and skip his senior season in high school. So I saw that on social media. I'll be honest, I don't know how that works. I have to imagine it would be too late to do, because, I mean...
Right, like the season's essentially a month away. Like,
yeah.
I don't think he can work that. I don't believe you can work it that fast.
Well, and I think from the high school level...
Right.
Like, to have all your...
He would have to go to class now.
Well, he would have had to have already gotten all of his credits, which he would have been reclassified anyway. So I don't know. Maybe they have some, loopholes they can pull there or something like that. But that would certainly be interesting because, if you missed that, Jake Retzlaff, the BYU quarterback, is planning to enter the transfer portal while he works through a civil lawsuit that he's dealing with, but also just was going to be suspended for having premarital sex. There's a member of the BYU football program. You can't do that. Let's see. Somebody says if they don't countersue, then he's probably just guilty and paid her off. Well, we will see how that goes. Someone says, why didn't she file criminal charges? I couldn't tell you. I don't. I apologize. I am not the legal expert on that matter. Someone says, would Tennessee consider going after the BYU quarterback? I mean, again, I think they're going to let all the legal proceedings play out before anybody wants to bring him in for a visit or anything like that. Let's see. Don chimes in. He says, good morning, guys. As an Auburn fan, I hate to admit it, but after a year of dominating the state of Alabama in recruiting, unfortunately, it has flipped back to the tide. However, if we can prove it on the field this year, Auburn could flip several commitments. Auburn's going to be like Florida last year. Well, we will certainly see about that, but a lot of things left to go for Alabama and Auburn on the recruiting front. But that does it for us. We're back tomorrow. We'll give you some of our hot takes for the SEC season. McElroy and Kublik in the morning is next.